Awesome. So this is Kendra.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
I'm excited to be here. I will probably be looking at my phone just to make sure I try not to talk too long.
I'll give you a little signal.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I just figured I would just share a little bit about myself and my journey. Let's see. So, excuse me. When I started doing drugs, I actually was like a late bloomer when it comes to that. I started in 2013, so it was back, what is it, 6 years ago? And I'm about to be 40, so about 34-ish. A lot of times people tend to start doing stuff early, but I had a baby at 17, so I had to grow up quick and be a mom and, do all that stuff you're supposed to do. And I was going through a lot of emotional stresses and physical stresses. I was married. I got married when I was 24. And right now I have 4 kids, but at the time I had, 2 and 3 kids at that time. So with my husband, it's hard to be married. It takes a lot of work to be married. And there's a lot of turmoil there. I love my husband to death now. We get along well, but at that time it was really hard. And we struggled a lot financially. Like literally I would get up, get myself ready for work, get my kids ready for work or school or daycare, take them to school or daycare, and then go panhandle enough money for gas to get to work. And then same thing on the way home. Or, try to figure out what bill to pay, either electricity or water or daycare or rent, stuff like that. And it was daily for like, I don't know how many years, but it definitely took its toll on me. And plus my husband and I argued so much. It was like, I think it was like a lot of more emotional abuse, not physical or anything, but, and I was the one in charge of everything. So I'm trying to hold up my family while I'm arguing with my husband. And then I developed chronic fatigue syndrome, and I had chronic pain, and had my gallbladder taken out, and just all these little health issues at that time. And so I was actually like pleading for help from my family, my friends. Like it was hard. It was really, really, really hard. And I felt like everybody was just like, it sucks to be you, too bad for you. And I felt so alone, and so I started to feel really resentful for it. And so I was dealing with physical pain, emotional pain. It wasn't until 2014 in April that I lost my job, both our cars broke down, and we lost our house all in the same month. And so that was the month I had a nervous breakdown. It was really bad. I couldn't even step foot in my house. My husband had to do everything. And so I went to go hang out with a friend, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and we went to a hotel, and there were people in there doing drugs. And I was like, I remember my first impression was, that stuff smells like rancid bacon. I was like, that stuff is nasty, And, backtrack a little bit. With my chronic pain, I was on pain meds. And you guys probably hear that story often. Like, people usually start from, going to their doctor, they get on pain meds, and then their doctor, like, cuts them off cold turkey. And then you start going to the streets looking for medicine for pain. And that's how my story was. I was addicted to pain pills. And then somebody introduced me to another drug, and I took it, and I was like, oh my God, no joke, the first time in years that I could even remember having a one day with no pain. I mean, not even one day. And I was like, wow, this is much cheaper than pills, And it took my pain away, it took my emotional pain away. And I was like, oh my God, I found something that actually helps me. And that just show you kind of how broken I was. Like, I looked at that as a positive. Even though I knew better, I knew drugs are bad. We learned drugs are bad. And something with me, like, we learned a lot about, marijuana when we were younger. So I had that embedded in my head, like, I had a game plan. Like, I didn't really care about smoking weed, nothing like that. But with the, like, harder drugs, I didn't really have a game plan in my head. So I just kind of went with it and just let it control me. where I feel like if I had kind of a game plan in my head that I may not have allowed that to happen. Let's see. Sorry, I wrote notes. So, I can look back now, and I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but with me, I feel like an addict a lot of the time is using a drug to fill some kind of void. Either running away from something, not wanting to deal with something, it fills some kind of void. And for me, now that I'm here and I can look back at that, mine was resentment towards my family and my friends, and I felt like I wasn't appreciated, and it was really hard on top of feeling pain every single day. And so I started, dabbling a little bit, and then everything was fine, and then I started losing things. You lose your place, you lose your car. I ended up separating from my husband, and I started dating somebody, and then, that relationship fell apart. And then I was homeless, and then it just kept getting worse and worse. And because of that, I've experienced a lot of situations. I won't get into them, but I'm sure we all have our stories of some stuff that we are not proud of, or just things that we've been through that we may not have been through if we didn't do drugs or didn't try drugs. Excuse me. That was coming. Let's see. And the biggest thing for me was the day that I realized that there was a shift in my using. I went from using for fun to using to survive. And once that day came, that's when it became serious for me. Because I was so hooked that I had to do it because I had to survive. I didn't want to feel that pain. It's a whole nother kind of pain, go through withdrawals and stuff. And so once your mentality changes to that, your outlook, everything's different. Everything. You get up and everything's surrounded by, how do I get the drug? Where do I get the money? And then, it's that nasty, vicious cycle where you're maybe happy for a minute. The minute you have it in your hand and you're like, good, I have it. Then you do it, and then you're back to, oh my God, where am I going to get more? And we just do that nasty, vicious, roller coaster cycle. And I remember I hated that feeling, but I just remember when I first quit, I was like, my life's kind of boring. You kind of miss the ups and downs and roller coasters, because even though it wasn't the greatest experience, it was a roller coaster. It was something. And so that was something I had to learn how to overcome. So I ended up, about 2 years ago, I found out I was pregnant, and that blew my mind. I was 38 years old, and I already have 3 kids, and I'm pregnant, and I was told I wasn't supposed to be able to have any more kids. So I was totally shocked, and I was heavy in my addiction. I was selling drugs, I should say. And I thought, oh my gosh, that changes everything. It's not just about me now, because I have to take care of somebody else, and if I can't hide from that, because if I use, then my baby's using, regardless of how I want to twist it around and justify it to myself. But it was so hard to quit. I mean, because when you're not in that situation, you think oh, I would just quit right away. Oh I would just stop cold turkey, and but when you're in that situation, it's not as easy as you think it would be. I was devastated, and I was homeless, and I don't remember if I had my car at that time. I think I did. I lived in and out of my car for 2 years, and then the other times I wasn't in my car, I was living in a trap house, and I mean, it was just disgusting. There was literally rats running from the kitchen to the living room, big old huge ones, just nonstop back and forth. There was a hole in the ceiling, you could look outside like a skylight, but not quite as cool. And it was just horrible. Remember one night there was a possum came in from under the sink.
Gross.
I'm yeah, I was oh my God. I'm is that really a possum in the house? I was oh. But I felt so helpless, because at that point I felt like I had no one. I felt so alone, because we have those fake fair weather friends that, they're your best friends when you have drugs, but when you don't, they're gone and they could care less about you. And I was just so nervous. I hid my pregnancy from my husband because we are separated, but we're not divorced. And I remember I had to go see him, and I literally stayed at his house for 2 days and wrapped a blanket around me the whole time. And I'm like out to here. He had no idea I was pregnant at all till 7 months along. And that was scary too. And finally, my friend contacted my mom and was like, I really want to get her into treatment. Because I wanted to, but I didn't know how to go about it, I mean, there's all these resources out there, but I still felt really alone. Like, I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but I felt so alone. Like, how am I going to get anywhere? Like, I can't even call and talk and ask for anything, let alone even trying to do the right thing. Like, how am I going to get any help? And so it took a couple weeks to finally be able to get into a treatment center. The first time I missed my bed date because I had no way to get there. Nobody could take me. They gave me one more chance. I almost missed my bed date a second time, but somebody in my family, my great aunt that I hadn't seen in a long time, that lived out in Shelton, just kind of random, just was like, I'll take you. I was like, okay. Like, I was so thankful for it. And when I went into treatment, I loved it. I loved my treatment center. I didn't want to leave, except for I missed my family, but I loved it. I recommend it to anybody, especially, it's a pregnant program for pregnant women. It's amazing. And I learned so much about myself. And, when you do drugs, without always realizing it, it totally can strip you of your own identity and, and who you are. Like, you lose who you are. A lot of times people lose their morals and do things that they normally wouldn't do, and things you may be ashamed of. But I always, for some reason, stuck with, you have to have a positive attitude. Your attitude is everything. And so I always carried that mentality. So when I look at people, like, I always try to look people in the eye and really focus on what they're saying. And I thought, what, just because I'm a drug addict doesn't mean I can't reach out and help other people, So I went through treatment, came out, was clean, and I was so excited. I had my son about 4 months later, and I'm like, great, I'm clean, I'm doing the right thing. I have a new baby, my life's on track. I've got 3 other kids, and I, working to see them, and I'm like, great, my life is turning around, right? And I had him in April. In August, I was with my boyfriend at the time, and I was walking, and I stepped in a hole with heels on, and I fell. And I'm like, that's not a big deal, kind of get up, shake it off. I'm a little embarrassed and mad about it, And my neck just kept hurting, and I'm like, something's not right. So I go to the emergency room. I end up going 8 or 9 times in a 14-day period to the emergency room, nonstop, with so much pain. And it started in my neck, and then it went down to my sciatic nerve. And come to find out that when I went in, that's when I found out I had cancer. I had breast cancer. I have breast cancer. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm finally getting my life together, And now I have cancer, let alone terminal cancer. I'm like, she just said, you will not survive this cancer. It's going to take your life. Like, that's exactly what she said to me. And I'm just sitting there, like, in shock, I have 4 kids, just now changing my life around, just now trying to do things right again for the first time. And I get hit with that. And they said that I would have, if I didn't do anything about it, they gave me 3 to 6 months to live. And if I did treatment, they gave me 8 to 15 months to live. And, like, it was very, very devastating. Like, it took me a couple days to really, let it sink in. I'm going through all these tests. Mind you, I've never really been to the doctor or the hospital unless giving birth. So now I'm getting all these tests, and I'm staying overnight at the hospital, and I was scared. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit up. It took me a full 48 hours to go from a laying flat position to sitting up to standing up, 48 full hours. And then I fell again. that was the most excruciating pain on top of childbirth that I've ever felt in my life. And I didn't even realize it till this year that I was going through liver failure, and I didn't even know it. So I mean, it was really close. Like, I didn't realize how serious it was at that time. And so you guys, a lot of you guys who have heard me talk, I always talk about choices. And so that's kind of building up into this, is I just want you guys to know that your choices mean everything. Your choices are everything. And your attitude is everything. Because it's normal to have those days where we feel like shit, you know, and we're like, I just want to give up, I just want to go do this, you know, self-sabotage our clean time, or, you know, if you feel like, even if you're mad at someone else, you're like, well, I'll show them, I'm just going to go do this, you know, these little things that we have in our mind. But I am so thankful, because I look back at that time that I was scared, alone, nobody would help me, I was pregnant, I was addicted, and I had nothing and no one, and I still made the choice to go get clean. And if I thought about that, if I didn't get clean and I was in that same position at the hospital, I would have been dead. No doubt would have been dead. Because I wouldn't have gone and checked, made sure I was okay. I definitely wouldn't have gone and got treatment, you know, or anything like that. And I thought about that. I'm like, I am so thankful for that. And that really helped me a lot. And then my daughter, she'll love this, because she's like, Mommy, do you ever tell people about what I did? Because I was so scared, and I remember came time for me to like lose my hair, and I was so worried that I was going to scare her. At the time, she was 4. I'm like, what if I scare her? What if she thinks I look like a monster or something? And she grabs my face and gets really close, goes, Mom, you're beautiful no matter what you look like. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, Mom, can I shave my head and get a wig so I can look like you? And I was like, you know what, if you can feel like that towards me, then I can do it. And that, like, she gave me that strength, like, and I just took it and ran with it. And so a lot of people ask me too, they're like, man, you're terminally sick, why don't you just go and have the case of the fuckets and just go and get wasted for the rest of your life? And I was like, you know what, because I feel like I don't know how much time I have left, but I can still reach out and touch somebody.
Yeah.
And my kids deserve to be with their mom as much as possible, and see a mom that has made a mistake, admitted to my mistake, and fixed my mistake, and lives to show what that looks like. You can never teach a kid, you can talk to a kid all you want, but showing by example is the best thing you can ever teach a child, is to see how, like, okay, my mom made this mistake. I tell my kids all the time, I made a big mistake. I said, if you ever have questions, you can ask me. I'd rather you ask me so I can tell you the truth. And like, I always try to have a good communication with my kids. I have the best kids. I love my children. They're just amazing. All of them in their own way are just amazing. And so I've always really tried my hardest to have a positive outlook on life, even though I have terminal cancer and we all die, but to know that you have like a deadline that's going to be closer than you're ready for, you know, it's hard. It's really hard. And I moved into the house I'm in now with my roommates, which I love. I'm so grateful for that, because it's the best group of women I've ever met. And on top of that, the extended family of like you guys that I've got to meet, and like they help build me up. And it's interesting to me, because I used to be one of the most negative people you've ever met. And people who don't know me probably would not, or who know me, would not expect to hear that from me, because you would not know that by how I am, you know. And it took me years to grow into that. Like, I had to fake it till I made it, you know. And so I just take everything, you know, as I get it, and deal with it and try to smile through it. And so my goal is to share my situation with as many people as I can. I mean, it may not do anything for anybody, but it may do something for one person. And like, I always just want people to really, really understand is that choices and attitude is everything. Choices and attitude is everything. And it's okay to have those days where you feel like you're taking a step back or you're at the beginning. And that's something I learned too, is that You know how you take like 5 steps back and then you feel like you take 15, or 5 steps forward, 15 steps back? But actually what you're really doing is that 15 steps back is actually projecting you through your journey. You're really not going backwards. You just have to go through that negative time to keep moving forward in your path. So it's okay to be upset and have days that you feel like you're not strong, but you just got to make sure you set up boundaries and things that help to bring you out of it. And the more that you do that, the quicker you'll bounce out of that. Until you start realizing, like, dang, that only took me 5 minutes to go through that cycle, and now I'm fine again, you know, and go about your day. But I just think that without that, without a positive outlook, without hope, without a good attitude, without a good foundation and people around you, that it's hard to succeed. I think it's important to have a good group of people around you. That's why I love Narcotics Anonymous. I love this group. I think it's the best thing that they've come up with, to be able to keep it in front of you, to meet people who genuinely care about each other, who care about each other's well-being, health, who are there when you need them, when no one else is there. It's important. And so that's pretty much all I guess I really have. I just wanted to share a little bit about my story, and just to let you guys know, like, if you have those days that things are tough, just know that it's normal, and to try to keep a positive attitude the best that you can, because, like I said, I know people who have been told they have terminal cancer, and 6 weeks later they're gone, because they just buy into it. But your attitude can save your life in more ways than one. It could save your life for drugs, save your life from terminal cancer. I think I'm going on 9 months. No, August? No, 10 or 11 months. And they said 8 to 15 months. And then a few weeks ago, they said like a month to 4 months to live. But you wouldn't know it if you talk to me. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like I wallow in it.